years ago, I decided to get to the bottom of a question that had just tormented me my entire life. And that was this: how is it possible for smart, capable people, people like us, to completely know the things that if we did them on a regular basis would result in tremendous life benefit? And yet was the two words. It's like this two-word brick wall that I kept running into, because it's so frustrating on a personal level to know what you should be doing, know you're capable of it, and yet. And on a leadership level, it's infuriating when you realize that your vision for your company, your organization, is completely held hostage by your team's ability to consistently execute on that vision. And yet. Consistency Chain is an exploration of this issue. And we do it by answering three questions. Number one, who? Who is affected by this? And the short answer is almost everybody. The statistics, the research tells us that 80% of people are challenged by their inability to be consistent over the long term. And the people that aren't, the 20%, tend to rise to positions of leadership. And guess who they get to lead? And just because you're really consistent in one area of your life doesn't give you a free pass in all the others. I mean, the perfect example of this is Oprah Winfrey. I mean, as a business person, she is without peer. But we have all witnessed for decades her very public struggle to get mastery over the physical area of her life. And she has every advantage you can imagine. I mean, she can have a personal trainer, a private chef. She could pay somebody $1,000 an hour just to follow her around and slap food out of her mouth. And yet, this is what we're up against when we're trying to help people with consistency. By age 5 and probably before, we are hardwired to either want to have instant gratification or the ability to delay gratification. And for our purposes, the ability to delay gratification is exactly the same part of the brain, the same neural network that consistency is. So how does this play out? So let's say you're in the 20%, and you're like, I could stand to drop a couple pounds. And you're at work, you walk into the break room, and there on the table, somebody has set a box of donuts. Who are these people? And you're looking at the donuts. The part of the brain that lights up for you is the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that can look at an action in the moment and project what repetitions of that action are going to end up in, and then you make the decision based on that. Well, with that consideration, you look at a donut and you go, okay, is that donut going to take me closer to or further away from what I really want? So you fill up your cup of coffee, you walk out. Now me, card-carrying member of the 80%. I also could stand to drop a couple pounds, and there's no reason to not in agreement. That's just hurtful. I walk in, I see donuts, which are, let's be honest, is the adult equivalent of marshmallows. I look at a donut, the part of my brain that lights up is a much more primal part of the brain called the ventral striatum. It doesn't think in long-term outcomes. It decides on 3 factors. We call it the ESP test. Is it easy? Is it safe? Is it pleasurable? So I look at a donut. Is a donut easy? My God, you can pick it up with one finger. Is it safe? There are no sharp edges to a donut. Is it pleasurable? Have you had a donut? So I'm going to walk out of there with a cup of coffee and a donut. Unless, of course, the room was empty, and then I'm going to have 2 donuts. Yeah, that's right. Possibly 3. Now, what have we done to help people like me? Basically, all we've ever said to people like me, we've just gone Nike on us. Just do it. Just suck it up and do it. Just do it. Does that work? For a little while. Does it work long term? No. February 8th, you know what that is? That's the date that virtually every New Year's resolution will have come to an end. Yeah. So just do it. That's a long-term strategy. Just do it. Just doesn't do it. So what I'm suggesting, what consistency chain suggests, is that we are going to, instead of trying to deny the basic neurological truth of what we're fighting, we're going to optimize for it. If we are driven by this insatiable desire for instant gratification, then let's find a way to leverage that so it works for us. That's what consistency chain is. The ironic thing about calling this the consistency chain is when we think of change, we think of things that restrain and bind us. And the consistency chain is the only chain that will set you free. If you ask most people if they have integrity, they're going to say, well, heck yes, I have integrity. I mean, if you ask me if I have integrity, I'm going to say, what have you heard? Yeah, sorry, that's just me doing that comedy thing again. That's a tough habit to break. Circling back to the integrity idea, most people think if you don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, you have integrity. Fair enough. But let me offer another definition of integrity. Integrity is the state of being integrated. What you think, what you say, and most importantly, what you do are all in alignment. They are integrated. A ship is in trouble when its hull loses its integrity. That's a fancy way of saying, hey, we've sprung a leak. But the way you right the ship and the way you right your life is bringing your thoughts, speech, and actions into alignment. What you think is what you say, and what you say is what you do. Now, I'm not suggesting this is easy or that you're going to be perfect, but it is possible. Maybe only just for one day. The good news is, this can be that day. I have been very fortunate. At critical moments in my life, it seems like someone has always turned up to give me great advice. And probably about 25% of the time, I actually listened. One of those times occurred very early in my stand-up speaking career. A veteran comic took me aside and gave me these 7 words. He said to me, George, stage time is golden. Don't waste it. I mean, in comedy, there's a lot of writing and rehearsing, but being on stage in front of real people is where you develop material and confidence and skill. And absolutely nothing replaces that. Now, I'm not telling you this to help you become a stand-up comic. I wouldn't do that to you. You couldn't take the pay cut. I'm telling you this because all of us have our own version of stage time. I mean, for a salesperson or a business owner, it may be that moment when you're in front of a client or a prospect. So how do you not waste it? Well, here's 2 ideas to think about. Pre-play and replay. Pre-play is preparation. What is my plan? What are the questions that I'm going to ask? If they say this, I'm going to be ready to say that. Here's one. What is going to be the tone and pitch of my voice? How am I going to walk in? You think I'm kidding, but I always had one idea I held in my head when I walked on a stage. Now, when I did stand-up, it was relaxed confidence. When I did a program called Joe Malarkey, the worst motivational speaker in America, the idea in my head was barely controlled energy. I was communicating before I ever said a word. That's pre-play. Replay is the debrief. What happened? Was there anything unexpected that I can be ready for the next time? Did I stay on track, stay in the moment? If I had it to do again, what would I do differently? And how can I take those lessons forward? Still some of the best advice I've ever gotten. Stage time is golden. Don't waste it.